and welcome back to The Myth Within. I'm Dr. Tom, and I'm really grateful that you joined me here today. Today, I'm going to continue my exploration of the concept of fatherhood, especially as it relates to myth in general. But when we explore myth, it's not the element of going into the stories of old things that may have some almost heroic predispositions to it, but instead to explore the lived aspects of myth as it relates to the themes present in the stories that we read about. And so throughout history, we've had numerous stories of positive fathers. We've had numerous stories of negative fathers. And the concepts of myth in general really provides the means by which we could see characterological traits that are either good or bad as it relates to the unfolding of the storyline that's present. Anyone that has been exposed to Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces realizes that the negative father is really embodied by this aspect of this aspect of power. There's a sense of what Carl Jung called the archetypal poles of the father. Father archetype was moral commandment and prohibition. And when we get into the tenets of this form of a father figure, we begin to see what can be an absence present. Maybe the absence is conscious. It's becoming too morally prohibitive to where the child is not allowed to express themselves, or too commanding, i.e., not allowing a child to begin to learn from their own mistakes. As anyone knows, we may have been told by our parents hundreds of times not to touch the hot stove, but it wasn't until we actually went through the pain of that experience did we realize the true value of the lesson that was being taught. Words alone may be able to instill fear, but the pain that's present associated with the act is really what creates the lifelong lesson that if we do touch a hot stove, we do get burned. The other negative pole of the father archetype would be the morally permissive. This we begin to see in the myth of Daedalus, whose son Icarus is playing in the wax and the strings as Daedalus is laboring. And as he's playing, Daedalus is working and working around him, but there's no sense of direction within the story present. Instead, there's a sense of just working around and pulling the status quo, allowing his son to express himself through play, which is an important part, but never teaching the moral value present about respecting work that is being conducted. And so when we begin to look at these negative poles present with either being too morally authoritative or too morally lenient, what ends up happening is we begin to see the means by which the psychology of the child could take off to very high heights without having a grounding present needed to create its journey forward to advance towards the dreams that may be present. While this may represent the negative poles of the father archetype, there are also positive poles around this sense of moral commandment and prohibition that's present. When a father allows their child to express themselves through play, the child begins to assume a psychology of experimentation, which is really needed to create the means from which we could explore and understand how our happiness habits arise. It's from this experimentative attitude that we begin to see things that move us. Through play, we begin to see maybe this brought a sense of joy to me versus a sense of despair. And it's when we begin to experience these more positive emotions in life that the structure around it creates the means by which our scent is grounded in a more positive state versus flying high just to escape. And this is really one of the core aspects of this segment of the story in the myth of Daedalus is the child's allowed to play but unencumbered. He's allowed to interrupt his father's labors without repercussion. And when you get to that point, you have experimentation, you have play without foundation. And when you have play without foundation, it seeks ever new heights. And we see a lot of this in the concept of drugs and alcohol as it relates to playing and experiencing some high sensation without the experience of grounding that is present in the moment to be able to handle whatever is that one's trying to move from. And so when we look at this concept of unimpeded play without grounding, we have the psychological flight that occurs. And with that psychological flight, we have to beware because when it is moving high towards the sun, like in the myth of Daedalus shows us, the wings from which it's moving get burnt out from under it, and the crash is almost inevitable. And so it's in this crash that we begin to find the prohibited nature of psychological ascent. Ascending towards one's dreams is not wrong. It's actually the state that we have to move towards as we look towards practicing of psychology of arrival. Okay. But you don't get to that psychology of arrival without first striving for. And so there's a paradox here that's present. And so if we aspire up, we also have to be grounded down. And really that comes from a place of loving kindness and patience to allow the natural course to unfold and to really enjoy the moment as it relates to working within the play structure to pass on the values necessary to assure that the child is grounded in their own sense of well-being. Now, this is not a quick solution. It really does take care, loving kindness, and a patient attitude to work with the next generation to see what is right, what is wrong, to allow them to touch the hot stove even though you warn them not to. It's not a sadistic aspect of the causation of pain, but instead it's a warning of these are the things that are here, these are the things that can burn, and then if they decide to touch that which burns, then you're there to empathically help them on other lessons on how they could heal from that. So I hope you enjoyed today's segment, my friends, and until next time, I wish you namaste. And may blessings find you as you advance confidently in the direction of your dreams. Thank you.